through tonight's NBA slate. Man, a little bit of a frustrating one last night for me because I know a lot of people were upset about the blowout between the Lakers and Sixers. I'm not entirely sure exactly why people were so heavy on that game. I'm a little frustrated with Michael Porter Jr. just having a terrible, terrible night. That was frustrating. I did switch over to mostly Andre Jordan once it was a perfect late swap night. So I ended up switching over to mostly that by the end of the day, which was obvious, but again, it was a little nerve wracking. And then Reggie Jackson, of course, who smashed. But I had a lot of good spots, a lot of time left, and a lot of like the nuts. I had the Kuzma and Embiid together in the right place. It just didn't quite get the right mix. Did okay in Showdown, but ready to move on to tonight. And then, of course, we got the big one tomorrow. Sheets, how'd you do? And let's jump into it.
No, I did not do well. It was pretty straightforward slate. I think what people were, I guess, upset about with the Laker blowout is because the Lakers put on like even 4 minutes of good play in the fourth quarter, and B would have had 90 instead of 68.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
That was pretty much it. Guy just does it. The other thing is that I think Santino, was he in like the winning lineups? That Utah guy.
Fontecchio.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was on the winning lineups, but he definitely did well. So I mean, as did Justin Holiday. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So listen. My issue was that the guy I was most confident on busted, and the guy I was least confident on smashed from the Denver. So I was not 100% confident that Jordan was going to do what he did, and he got 10 million. And I was 100% sure that Michael Porter Jr. would get 60, and he got like 12. So that's
yeah.
That's just the way that goes, I guess. Sometimes
he did pick it up a little bit at the end and got to like 28.
The real key was to play, and this was the low owned piece that you really should have played was Kuzma. I mean, Kuzma was in the lottery. He was only 11% owned, and that was the key over there. And if you ran the Denver guys back, I mean, you got. I'm looking at the lottery here. You had Kawhi Leonard at 8%. So that was
that was my mistake. Was the Harden over Kawhi? That was my. I don't even. I mean, look, it was a mistake based on last night. But I liked the Harden play, and I literally could have played for Kawhi in a lot of those lineups because I had actually Harden in my utility somewhere. I had Jordan only at center, and that would have been plenty to at least get me over the cash line. But anyway, we're on to another one. We got some good tournaments tonight. Any overall thoughts before we jump into game by game?
Yeah, no, I mean, okay, so I was about to say no value now, but I think that there's a possibility that based on like the line or something like that, we might be able to infer something. We'll get to that when we get to it. But you were right on about that, about the Jokic was going to sit. And you were also sort of right on with the fact that the Clippers really shouldn't be favored over anybody.
Right.
I mean, regardless of who's playing, if you want to know the truth. I mean, let's get into it. I think that, again, it's very, very little value to start off the day. And whenever we say that, value usually shows up mysteriously when you're not expecting it.
Yep, absolutely. And as a reminder, that still doesn't mean that the early stuff and they were chalky last night, but on a bigger slate, like I feel like there's a chance like Cade, which he was fine. He wasn't like he was great. But Cade and Ivy might have been a little more lost on a giant slate than they were last night. And just the plays you like at the beginning of the day are often still good plays at the end of the day, even if they're not going to be as open.
I mean, I will say that to me, I mean, we'll get to it. I mean, we'll get to it first. I'm not sure. We'll have to tease it. I think there's kind of a standout spot here, which we'll I guess we'll get to.
Yeah.
And not to over tease it, but it's not going to be in this Chicago-Boston game. Which we will start with, I suppose.
Let's start with it. Why don't you say it?
Yeah, so Chicago and Boston is, a team that plays really good defense with Boston against a team that plays really good nothing. And it's a 100-point spread. So there's blowout risk as well. I mean, if you want to build like a blowout lineup out of Boston, that's and you're playing 150 lineups, you want to build like 10 blowout lineups. I guess you could do that. But aside from that, unless there's some, I mean, I guess it's possible that what's his name, that Caruso is out and Levine is out. If they're both out, then maybe you could play other guys, but then the blowout risk even becomes more violent. So I'm probably, I mean, Tatum's going to project to be a good play, but I don't know. It just doesn't seem like the game environment for him to hit a ceiling. So I'm probably avoiding this game.
Yeah, I think that's sort of a little bit where I am. I do think there's a chance the Bulls switch up their starting lineup, and it was pretty publicized. They're the worst team in the NBA offensively and defensively with their starting lineup. They rank last in both by a pretty good margin. They're averaging getting outscored basically by what would equate to about 35 real life points a game with this starting lineup. So I would keep an eye out, but I don't really know what would make it happen. I mean, maybe if they did something weird like start a Javon Carter or the Sonmu, that could be something. And then we have to see about Levine and Caruso. But if Levine and Caruso are good to go, I think that the highest level would be Vooch on Chicago, which is not very high level. And I am always good with taking because Boston, we know that Jaylen Brown and Tatum are just always low owned. Just guys to keep in the back of your head as if I ended up on them, maybe it'd be okay. But nothing that stands out from here. All right. Toronto and Minnesota.
Toronto, Brooklyn, you mean?
Toronto, yeah, excuse me.
Yeah, pretty much more of same, but not for the same reasons. I mean, this is obviously a much more competitive game, but nobody really seems to stand out as plays here. I have Pascal Siakam is, as usual, pretty reasonable, $8,200 player. Brooklyn, nothing except I guess Cam Johnson again, probably going to show up. So aside from those two guys, maybe as one-offs, another game that's pretty uninspiring.
Yeah, like I can get behind basically everybody on Toronto.
All right, there we go. We got something.
You could sell me on everything here. Brooklyn's been playing fairly fast. I think Siakam is my favorite, but actually, why is he my favorite over Barnes? Like, I actually think Barnes at this, just people don't want to believe. I don't know what it is with him. Like, I understand he has
been keeping it up.
What's that? I mean, overall, so he's 8,600. He's averaging 45 fantasy points a game in a plus matchup. He's put up. He's been a little slower lately. He only had 150 fantasy point game in his last 6, but I mean, some of those have been due to actually 4 of those have been due to blowouts. So if this game stays close, he could absolutely get there. So I'm going to keep him on my list. Siakam, and I have it Siakam. Well, I think I'm going to go Barnes, then Siakam, then Anunoby, then Schroeder. But I have a little bit of interest in all of them, to be honest with you. And I don't even mind if you wanted to take a shot on the total play. I like this matchup for them. We'll see what happens with Claxton on the other side. I think that Cam Johnson is probably going to show up as looking like the best play. I'm okay with it, but nothing that I feel like I have to get from the Brooklyn side. I think that if I did want to play some Toronto, maybe I would look for a run back if I had to do one. I guess the most logical is Cam Johnson, but if you want to go for upside, maybe taking Claxton, Dinwiddie, or Mikal Bridges would be the way to go. But nothing to be too excited about yet. All right, Cheats, what do we got next?
Yeah, okay. So Cleveland, Atlanta. Now at least we have something here. It's a very kind of a what do they call it, pace-up spot, I guess, for Cleveland against Atlanta, who's just one of the worst defensive teams in the league. And Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, like to play in those types of games when they have the opportunity. So I do like both of them. Darius Garland, a little better for me, just cheaper. And then Garrett Allen also. So Garland, Allen, you can play Mobley too. I think all these guys can put up good games. If you wanted to run it back, I mean, Capella's always reasonable, and Trae Young is showing them 3% owned. I mean, that's got to be worth something. So yeah, I guess we'll get to other games later that might be better, but for now, I mean, this has got a big total. It's it's got guys that can score in a pretty good game environment, especially from the Cleveland end of it. And so yeah, I like the guys I mentioned.
Yeah, it feels like a good game to target, but I don't really know exactly who I want. You do have the really low owned Trae Young. He's getting expensive, and it's not like he's been any sort of a sure thing. Just kind of interesting what I was saying. Trae Young has been really on a hot streak right now. A lot of it has to do is because he's just nailing every three, which I don't remember him being this hot from three basically ever. The matchup is bad, but it's better than it seemed like it should be. Like Cleveland's defense has not been quite the same this year. So I guess you could say him. I think you could also make an argument for DeJounte. I think you can make an argument for Bogdanovich, and then both centers on Atlanta. But nobody, I don't know like who to prioritize at this juncture. I feel like a lot of that's, once we get other value, I think that's all going to sort of go by the wayside. Garland seems like a really strong play, even with Mitchell back. I think Mitchell's an interesting, counter to the idea of Trey. Maybe you could play those two together. And both Allen and Mobley. I think Allen is the one I would side with here, but I think they're both interesting. So definitely a game that I like the pace in, which is weird to say in a Cleveland game, but Atlanta's just been playing so fast. So I like the game overall. I'm still deciding who exactly I want to prioritize from here. All right, moving on to Milwaukee, Miami. Is that right?
Yep.
All right, go ahead. Here we go.
Yeah. So this is a game with a decent amount of injury possibilities here. You have both Jimmy Butler and Chris Middleton listed as questionable. You have Middleton. I mean, he went to the locker room in Friday. It said Achilles tightness. I don't know. I mean, we just have to see. We have to see if he plays or not. I can't imagine. I don't know. I just can't imagine him being 100% healthy with that, enough to get like 1 billion minutes. But if he's out, then you have all these other guys that could fill in, like the Andre Jackson. Is that the guy's name?
Yeah.
Whoever that guy's from Milwaukee. And Jimmy Butler on this side, I mean, he's questionable. I will say this. I mean, if he can play, he's going to play. Obviously, in this game, I mean, Miami's just made it a point to just own Milwaukee whenever Milwaukee comes to town. So it'd be nice for Butler to participate in that. I will say this: that if he doesn't play, I still think that Miami wins the game. It's just I think it's in Milwaukee's and Giannis's head now. I mean, I don't think he can play in that arena like ever. Yeah. You have to watch to see if Butler is out. If he's out, then obviously all the Miami guys, whoever plays, is in play. And I think if Butler plays, and we talk about this, I mean, maybe I talk about more than you do now, that there are only not a couple games, but several games that Butler will play really hard in the regular season. You have to think that if he does fight through an ankle injury to play this, it's probably going to be one of them. But aside from that, I mean, nothing really projects all that great. It's just more of like a narrative type game. I don't think I will play. Again, I just kind of know what I've seen over the years. And every time it looks like, ooh, this is the time you're supposed to play Giannis against Miami. And I look at him like he's 2% owned or something like that. Ooh, and then he just gets owned in this freaking place. I mean, I don't even understand it sometimes. Nonetheless, obviously watch for the injury news between Butler and Middleton being the main pieces. I'm also seeing Robinson is probable, but yeah, those two bits of injury news are very important.
Yeah, I agree. On its face, this looks very much like not a DFS game to me right now. I think Butler would be my highest level of interest, and that's not that high. I think Caleb Martin is mildly interesting. I think Kyle Lowry's price is reasonable, but nobody who I'm trying to go out of my way to get, which is sort of how I feel about a lot of these games today. To be honest with you, I'm not all that excited about a lot of this stuff at this moment. Again, it's all going to change when we get the mega shock that comes in when we inevitably hear about something. Although most of these teams are not on back-to-backs, it's probably worth noting. It's not like we have like a million back-to-backs that we've had sometimes this year. Somebody
had commented there was a little line movement towards the Milwaukee side, which might indicate that Butler might be not playing. So that was.
Let's see. Yeah, it's Milwaukee -2.5. I think that seems about right. Okay. Yeah, let's see. All right. OKC, Minnesota?
Right? No, I have Charlotte, New York next.
Yeah.
New York is, just kind of where fantasy points go to die, I think. But yet, on the other hand, you have LaMelo Ball where fantasy points kind of go to live. But now I'm seeing, look at this. It says he's doubtful for two. All right, so here we go. I didn't even realize this. So LaMelo Ball is doubtful Tuesday against the Knicks. So I'm really not getting any of these guys projected yet. And I'm sure that I will. So I imagine that between Rozier and pretty much everybody else who's wearing a uniform on the Charlotte Hornets, they're all going to be really, really good plays. I don't know I don't even know when this news even came. Hold on. This news came at 5:10 p.m. yesterday. And it's not even reflecting the projections. Is this?
I think it is being. I think it's being mildly projected in the reflections.
Am I hallucinating? I mean, why are these guys not better plays on my board?
I mean, he only played 15 minutes in the last game, and none of them got there. So.
Oh yeah, but this is. I mean, I don't know about that. I'm gonna have to monitor the projections of these guys because the guy's got the ball every freaking time down the court. LaMelo. So I'll play all these guys honestly. Especially so far, I haven't really identified too much value on the slate. I mean, I don't know. That's my initial take. Mitch Robinson 5,200, RJ Barrett 5,900 for the Knicks. You can always play Jalen Brunson and Randall, but I prefer the cheaper ones between Mitchell Robinson and RJ Barrett, and play all the Charlotte guys. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little weird. I mean, one thing to note that LaMelo has been playing without Rozier the whole time, or lately, and Rozier's only played one game, and it was the last game. I do think Rozier is the obvious guy you would go with. I think there is massive blowout risk in this game.
For which side?
For the Knicks.
I know. I guess I can't imagine the Knicks ever blowing anybody out. I guess so.
They've been in. I mean, they're not like a bad team.
They're 500, right? I mean, like
yeah, yeah, like I don't know. So I definitely have worries about it. I also think that Rozier's, and they're competent enough. I can't find anybody that really makes like perfect sense. Like I think Rozier, Bridges, probably then either Brandon Miller or Mark Williams would be my favorites, and I think that's a little scary. I mean, remember they also have to, they moved PJ Washington to the bench before Rozier even came back, I believe. So that's like another weird one. There's a lot of trade pieces talked about with Charlotte. I don't know. I have a little bit of a hard time figuring this one out, but it does seem like a good spot, and it's such a great spot on the other side. RJ Barrett is now below 6K. I would put him as one of the guys early in the day that you'd want to target. I think that both Brunson and Randall are in really good spots. And I think Mitch Rob is probably going to end up with 20 rebounds. And if he can get 10 points for once, you might be in good shape.
That would be nice, right?
Yeah. So a lot. This is the other, the other game that you have to like sort of stack and pray. But I do think that you can definitely get there with this game stack. And maybe like you said, without them projecting well, maybe people just won't go there. If you just sort of close your eyes and make the plays, pick 3 from Charlotte, and then play, I don't know, maybe Mitch Rob and Barrett or Randall and probably not, maybe not, I don't know, maybe Brunson and Robinson or something like that. I think it's an interesting game stack, so I don't mind that. And for what it's worth, hold on, I'm a little confused by what Brian's saying. This is the last day for the in-season tournament. Yeah. Okay, so it's the last day for the in-season tournament for some teams. There's some teams that I don't think are done yet. I'm pretty sure there's at least one more Friday, if I'm not mistaken. But I do think it's worth noting on these on these in-season tournament games, some of these teams take it really, really seriously. Unfortunately, most of them don't seem to be on the slate tonight. Indy's the team I always like to target there. All right, what do you got next? OKC, Minnesota?
I do. I've heard some people talk about Rudy Gobert being a good play. I don't know. I'd have to see a ceiling first before playing him. I guess that's the best I could describe this. So I just play other centers before him. I mean, projects really well, but I can't imagine why. Anyway, the guy that stands out, as always, is Anthony Edwards. He just always has the ceiling, and he's under 9K, so he would be my preferred guy from Minnesota. OKC, not much. I mean, Shea against a pretty good defensive team. I think I'd prefer other spend ups maybe, but I don't know. And listen, he's 10-5. He's another one of these 4% owned 10-5 guys. But I don't know. I just prefer Anthony Edwards and not much else, honestly.
Yeah, it's hard to get to stuff for me on the OKC side. What I would say is that So basically, like Chet has the same ceiling as Shea does. It's going to come in less often. Why aren't we playing Chet? So I'm going to probably play Chet.
There you go.
And that's, Gobert doesn't like to come away from the basket. Chet's shooting 53% from three. This guy's been like, literally his rookie numbers, it would make you think he's like, he's on his way to becoming the best player in basketball. Like he looks incredible. So Chet would be the run back because you're going to like a lot of things that project really well from Minnesota right now. Now, will this value at the end of the day be the same thing it is now? Probably not. But Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Naz Reid look like at first look, two of the better values on the slate. And then you've got Edwards, who I think is a really good spend up. I think Towns will be low owned. I think he's an interesting other option. And then I'm totally good with Gobert in this matchup. I don't need Gobert to flash me anything. You know what I mean? I know what he is. And you're going to have a team that plays fast. You're going to have more opportunities for rebounds, for block shots. You think the game would stay close. And if all that happens, I think Gobert should be fine. So I like at least one of these guys, but I think Cat is sort of the one who will be the most ignored if you wanted to go that direction. I also don't want to ignore Kyle Anderson. I think it's just a really good matchup. And whenever they're in plus matchups, I like these guys. The problem is it's just going to fluctuate depending on how things are going for Minnesota.
Well, maybe we shouldn't make it so difficult. I mean, like you said, I mean, Chet Holmgren it's a bad matchup for him, but it's a good matchup for him. It's like he's going to have a tough time keeping Gobert off the glass, but whatever. He's just going to be bombing threes in this game. You know what I mean? Like 50, 60, maybe this is one of the games where he gets 50 or 60 instead of one of the games where he gets 30. He's only 7,800.
And like it's a bad matchup on paper, but it's not necessarily a bad matchup. Like, you know what I mean? Because Gobert, and it's not like Gobert is going to necessarily guard him, but then you have Cat guarding you, who's actually played better defensively. But I could see Chet doing something here. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sort of talking myself into it more and more.
I think I am too. except for the fact that we have the greatest center in the United States.
Yeah, we're the best player in basketball playing.
Yeah, in the next game. So it's going to be that's an interesting decision, between like Sengun or Chet, like the mid-range center. The only difference is Sengun is legitimately he's playing against the Harlem Globetrotters. So and you get to play Luka in that game. So and you get to play Fred VanVleet going to play 57 minutes in this game. So it's this is the easy one. I mean, this is the easy game to deal with, given current pricing. You just find a way to play VanVleet, Sengun, and Luka, and somehow make the rest of your game work. Jabari Smith obviously looks pretty decent, but it's a big total, and that's pretty much all I have from here. I have Sengun currently. I have Sengun and Luka as the top two plays overall for me on the slate, and they happen to be in the same game. So to me, it's an easy way to start my lineups.
Yeah, unfortunately they raised Kyrie's price back up, so I can't really get to him. The crazy thing is, so Grant Williams, we don't know how many minutes he's going to play, right? That's sort of the issue with him. He's drafted at 28. I thought that there was something. Am I missing something with Grant Williams here? I'm a little confused. I don't know why he would be projected at 28 instead of the 30s. He's still low usage, obviously. But I do think Grant Williams is a value play at 4K. I can definitely get behind a guy who's a major part of your team at 4K starting. I also think Josh Green is an interesting pivot for value if we don't have better stuff. I think those are the two guys who stand out from a value perspective. I like that you have Lucas rated so high, and I kind of like that too. But I don't know. Like I'm having a hard time knowing how to get him in. But if I can find a way to get him in, I think it's definitely not a bad idea. So I have it ranked Sengun, then Smith, Sengun, then Fred VanVleet, then Smith, then Jalen Green, and maybe even Dylan Brooks. And then I have Grant Williams or Josh Green on the other side as kind of interesting. And maybe Derek Lively, because he'll have to play minutes tonight, possibly is in play, but maybe they'll just give some of those minutes to home. So I'm a little up in the air with what I want to do.
To answer your question, I don't know how I'm going to get this in. If I play all three of these guys that I want, I mean, I'm going to need a lot of value to open up because that's using these three guys is at least 4,300 a man. That ain't easy.
Yeah, it might be though at the end of the day.
Right now, it's not easy.
Right.
Maybe, like you said, maybe Grant Williams or something like that to get it started. And then maybe go back to Trey Lyles. We'll get to him in a second, I guess. But not a lot as far as pure value goes. Maybe I'll just play one of them. Or maybe maybe I don't need to play the Luka piece. Maybe I just play the Houston guys and then go with more like the Darius Garlands and that type of thing. But I definitely like the Sengun. I'm gonna have two. I think I'm gonna have two Houston guys, and probably one of them's gonna be Sengun and the other's gonna be Van Vliet. Yeah, it's hard for me to get away from both those guys. I mean,
no, I like it, and this is the kind of matchup where I think it's totally cool to play them together, even though they technically kind of hurt each other because they're the two assist guys on the team, the two setup guys. So, all right, and just to answer a question that we got asked earlier, like about Bam versus Sabonis, my answer to that is neither. That's what I would say to that question. Bam is the better player.
If Butler was out, I mean,
what's that?
If Butler was out,
yeah. And I think Bam's okay anyway. But I saw what happened with Sabonis last year in the playoffs, and it's kind of hard for me to get behind the fact that he basically never got there in 7 games against this team, and I don't see why he would start.
I would rather play either Sengun or Chet or at center or even Jared Allen or Mitch Rob.
Yeah.
Or Mitch Bob. I'd rather play those guys on the slate than the guys you mentioned.
Yeah, I like the Jared Allen idea.
But he sometimes doesn't play a billion minutes either.
Well, he just got back from an injury, but now he did. Now he is.
Right.
So it's a little different. All right. So what do you got here for the?
You want? I mean, it's an island game. Well, sort of. It's close enough to an island game. Draymond 6,200. It's pretty reasonable. Aside from that, I don't have too much from this game. You like it? You like anything here?
The return of Draymond, huh? So it's a great pace game. This is the kind of game you usually want to try to target, but the problem is, as always with Golden State, it's really, really hard to try to figure it out. And as of right now, I think Draymond looks like the obvious best play. I don't think he really takes away, obviously, from any of the other guys what they can do, but Clay at 5,900 is just worth. He's 5,900. He can always get hot and get there. The problem is, even when he's gotten hot there lately, he's getting like 30 fantasy points. So it's not like the most exciting play in the world. And then Curry can always have a ceiling game, but again, nothing that I'm like screaming out to me. But those would be probably in that order. That would be my favorite way to do it. On the other side, Trey Lyles, they raised his price. I don't see why this would be the kind of game where they need to use Trey Lyles. Like, I liked him the other times because they needed to play the teams with multiple bigs. Even in those games, he played 28 minutes against New Orleans because they didn't have anybody who could stop Zion, and he's the biggest body they could bring out. And then against Minnesota with the bigs, he only played 19 minutes in that game, and they sort of controlled that game. So it was a little weird. I thought he was going to play a little bit more, a few more minutes. I think my favorite play in this game is Malik Monk. To be honest.
Is he over 6K now?
He's 5,600.
56. All right, that's fair.
So I think it'd be him. Like, and I think that there's like De'Aaron Fox is just a little bit pricier than I want to for ceiling, although he does have a ceiling to get there. But yeah, good game environment, but not a lot to love from it. But I think I squeezed out a few plays that I like from today. I really like the Sengun. Sengun and Jared Allen seem like a good play those guys at center kind of a deal. Terry Rozier, RJ Barrett, one of the others from Houston, whether it be Jabari Smith, Fred VanVleet, Brooks, or Green, I think are all interesting. I think that the whole Minnesota side is interesting. I have it ranked Edwards as the spend up, then Cat, and then I have the other pieces ranked. I have Reed ahead of Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I'd like to get more in the Atlanta-Cleveland game other than Jared Allen, but that's what I've got as my favorite play in that. And then Charlotte, New York, as you said, I think that might be a game we want to target. And to point out what some of the things Brian's been saying in Discord that I think is really helpful. Brian's a good dude. Appreciate it. It is the last night of the play-in tournament, and I'm going to have to go through all the rankings. I'll do this all before we go live at 6:30. But and you have to point differential matters in this. So you might see players in 30-point blowouts playing all the minutes, which is actually good. That means you can kind of project them a little bit more accurately, right?
So you're saying that there are teams that need to win by a certain amount to.
Well, no, they don't know what they need to win by because their other teams are playing too. But yes, there's point differential. There's teams that could all end up 3-1, and the point differential is the decider.
Yeah, so I guess we got to figure out who that is.
Which I'm going to figure out. I'll do that right after I get off here.
Well, okay, so nothing to do with that. Not having anything to do with that. So I got I guess that's sort of a ridiculous play. It's more of just like a guy who's pretty good. He's probably not going to. He's definitely not going to get the minutes he has been getting because the team is healthy now. But if you want to just have some guy who is going to get a rotation off the bench who might get hot, is that guy from Cleveland, the Craig Porter Jr. You know, he was getting all these minutes because there was no Mitchell and like sometimes no LeVert or whatever. And his last game, he only played 17 minutes, but he was super efficient. You know, maybe they just keep playing him, and I don't know. I mean, he's down to 4K. You know, he was
actually the last game he was a DNP-CD.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. And I think that's very real possible. I mean, like, how do you get minutes over Mitchell, Garland, LeVert?
Yeah,
Strauss?
I guess so. I
didn't
know that. I thought that was fun.
Yeah. You know what? Watch tonight. He comes out and they let him play a few minutes, and he goes nuts, and they leave him in there.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just straining for these 4K guys.
Yeah.
And I can't quite find it. Maybe some Miami news opens up. Maybe Caleb Martin becomes a playable guy at 4,500. He's probably playable anyway.
Yeah, I think Caleb Martin's playable.
That's a 4,500 guy. Nick
Greg Williams is 4K.
DiVincenzo been getting him? No, he was only getting him because what's his name was out.
Yeah, a combination of Grimes and Barrett.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Listen, something will rear its ugly head as it always does. Or let's see. How about this with these Boston blowout rosters, like Pritchard? You're not even going to break out of him. He's 4,700.
Yeah. By the way, it's probably worth pointing out that one of those teams that is in contention is the Knicks, and that speaks more to that game stack than maybe we would have originally thought. Remember, if you have a choice to make an extra $500,000, you're going to take that choice. I don't care how much money you have. All these guys want to win it, and they want to win it for the guys who don't have it. And it's a competitive thing. These guys are competitive. It's another way of measuring something.
You got if Middleton is out, if Middleton is out, you might get another sucker bet of the A. Jackson.
Yeah, that's probably going to be a pass if Middleton.
Yeah, he started twice and he's gotten 12 minutes in both those games.
I have to just check the groups because some of the numbers, we can't have everybody that's already 3-1. So Boston needs to win the game by 22 to win their group. Is that actually? I just got to double check the. I'll double check the in-season.
All right, so we can talk about that. I mean, with Porzingis out, right? I guess you could play Tatum. Wait, is Drew going to be out also? He's questionable.
Where did we get? We already had Porzingis out. Yeah, no, Horford is the one. Actually, now that he's 6K now. I mean, it's just they priced it up. Tatum and Jaylen Brown are probably the right answers there. Yeah.
Well, especially Drew. Hold on. So Drew is out.
Wait, Drew's out?
No. He's questionable. I'm saying if he's out. Derek White was present for shoot around is probable, so he's probably going to play. All right, that's something, I guess. They need to win by 22.
Yeah,
well, you know how I feel about that. If Boston really needs to win by 22, then we'll just take Chicago plus the points. So
well, yeah, but I think that's really doesn't make any sense.
I don't know what to tell you about making sense, but
I know your style. I love it, and you're usually right, but I just have a hard time with that one. But it is kind of interesting because actually, what's funny is that you probably should adjust your bets like that, right? Because if it's like a tie game with like 6 minutes left, it's not like Boston really. It's just a regular season. I guess I don't know. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm reaching. Boston is 2-1 with a 0.0 differential. Oh, they're actually 0 even. Wow. Okay. So that makes perfect sense. Thanks, Eric. I appreciate that. I'm just double checking. I'll go through all that before we go.
What did Eric just say?
He's just talking about how Boston needs to win by 22 to make it because that Orlando's in first of their bracket.
Dude, when I coached AAU, I was like freaking like a mad scientist for that stuff because everything in these pool games was all about point differential. Once you got to once it was like tied and stuff, we were never good enough to always like win the pool. We'd have to like break ties. So it was always about like point differential. And there was one game where we had to win by 6 points to get to the next round, and we were up 2 with like. I mean, towards the end of the game, up 2 doesn't do anything for us, and we had the ball underneath our own basket with 5 seconds to go, and you knew they were going to foul us, so we actually ran a play and scored on our own basket at the buzzer to go to overtime. That's like that was our only chance. So, and the crowd was like the 40 parents that were there looking, they were looking at me like some freaking idiot. You know what I mean? I literally ran a play to our own basket. Like I screened the other guys away so that we had a wide open layup in our own basket. Everybody's looking, what the hell's going on? Because nobody knew that we needed to win by 5.
Right.
They're like, they just thought I was some freaking psychopath, So it was those were good times.
Right. For what it's worth, by the way, I'm just looking here real quick, and while Eric's accurate about the Celtics having to win by 22. If Brooklyn wins by 16, it doesn't matter because Brooklyn has to win by 16, and Brooklyn then would win the group if the Celtics theoretically won by 22. That's what makes it a little bit tough tonight. The Knicks need to win by 21, but then they also need the Heat. Well, then they just need the Heat not to win by 30.
All right. We're
and they need the Bucks to lose.
Wait. We're on brand here. So we are going to be releasing this. We are taking the Chicago Bulls.
I'm not in on this one.
Plus 13.5. We'll do half high. We'll go $90.
Okay, I'm out on this bet.
Hey, you can be out. I'm just.
Yeah, no, I got you.
Keeping it real. What can I tell you? That's it.
Yeah, and then the Rockets have to win by 17. A lot of stuff to try and factor in, but it's mostly just going to mean I think the starters probably play a little bit more minutes if it comes down to that situation. Because some of the games, like you won't know until later. With if the Kings win, they automatically win their thing. But if the Warriors win, then the Timberwolves can make up the points. But it's probably too much to make up. So it's really mostly going to be the Celtics, Nets, and Knicks that I think are affected at all. And even the Knicks one, they still need the Bucks to lose, which they may because they're playing in Miami. So, that's right. It's pretty interesting. Anyway, please click the like button, guys. We'll be live with you at 6:30 Eastern. We're going to do a little football preview for this upcoming weekend. And good luck to everybody today.
Sounds good.